My name is Kale Riven. I never believed a house could hate you until mine did. I moved in last fall. The house was a steal, and that should have been the first red flag. But it looked perfect. Modern layout, clean finishes, floor-to-ceiling, windows, and a strange, windowless room at the end of the hall. The realtor called it the reflection room. Inside, every wall was covered in mirrors. From floor to ceiling, corner to corner, all seamless. No doors, no outlets, just your image, multiplied 100 times over. I asked what the room was used for. She smiled. It's decorative. I should have run. At first I avoided the room, but it had a pull, like a dare. I'd catch myself walking toward it, staring at my reflection, as if expecting it to blink first. The first sign that something was off. My reflection started moving out of sync, not by much, just a fraction of a second, like lag. Then came the smiles, slow, wide, and not mine. One night I tested it. I raised my hand. My reflection followed, but its smile remained. When I dropped my arm, it kept waving. The lights in the room began flickering whenever I entered, but never anywhere else in the house. Then came the tapping dot from inside the mirror. Soft at first, fingernails, then fists. I set up a camera, aimed it straight at the main mirror, and left it recording overnight. When I watched the footage the next morning, my blood turned to ice. At 3:03 a.m., I entered the room, except I hadn't. It was my reflection, identical in every way, walking freely inside the mirror world. It stopped, turned to the camera, and whispered something. I turned up the volume. I'm almost through. I smashed the mirrors. They didn't. BREAK. I called contractors. Every one of them refused the job. Said there were no mirrors, only glass walls behind the drywall. Some kind of reflective paneling built into the frame of the house itself. One even muttered, "This isn't a renovation. It's a cage." That night, the door slammed behind me as I passed the hallway, locked from the inside, and the reflection wasn't there anymore. I stood in the room, alone, surrounded by blank mirrors. Then she stepped out. She had my face but hollow, as if stretched over something else, taller, smiling with glee and hunger. "I told you," she whispered. "You looked too long." The lights went out. When they came back on, I was standing inside the mirror, and she was outside, living my life. I screamed. Every night, unheard. You might think you're safe behind your own reflection. You're not. My name is Calder Knox, and I don't believe in ghosts. I moved into my new place in the suburbs a month ago. A fresh start, quiet neighborhood, clean walls, no skeletons in the closet, or so I thought. The house was built in the 70s but looked modern after renovations. Still, there was one thing that bugged me. A sealed hatch in the hallway ceiling, painted over, no handle, no explanation. I only noticed it because I kept hearing noises above me at night, like footsteps, but slower, dragging. I told myself it was old pipes, raccoons, wind, the usual excuses skeptics like me recite like prayers. Then came the THUDS, not every night, just some, always at 3:33 a.m., like something heavy dropped and rolled, always followed by silence. Too complete to be natural, curiosity finally got the best of me. I grabbed a ladder and a crowbar and pried the hatch open. Dust rained down. The air that hit my face was dry and ancient, like opening a tomb. I aimed my flashlight upward. There was a narrow crawl space, wooden beams, insulation, nothing unusual, except a single rocking horse sitting in the center. Not a box, not old furniture. A wooden horse, pale, cracked eyes painted too wide. It rocked once, just once. I climbed up. It was ice cold. My breath fogged. I stepped onto the beam and moved toward the horse. That's when I noticed something else. Deep scratch marks on the inside of the ceiling panels. Long, frenzied, as if something had tried to claw its way down. I heard a whisper, right beside my ear. "Calder, I fell, crashed through the hatch, snapped my wrist, spent the night in the ER. I came back, angry, ready to prove it was all stress, imagination. I filmed the crawl space, left a camera running all night. What it captured made my blood freeze. At exactly 3:33, the horse rocked. A hand-gray skeletal reached into frame, then a face pressed against the hatch opening. No eyes, just a gaping, toothless maw. It whispered, "You looked up, now I'll come down." I sealed the hatch, nailed it shut, painted over it like before, pretended nothing happened, but the noises returned. Louder now, heavier. And last night, I found footprints in the hallway, dust bare, wet, leading away from the hatch, and stopping right at the foot of my bed. My name is Alara Bexley, and I inherited a house I didn't know existed. It came in the mail, a lawyer's letter, informing me of a distant relative's passing. Great Aunt Marnie. Never met her, never even heard of her. But she left me her home in Vermont, isolated, tucked between dense pines, and old as hell. I figured, why not? Free house, possible resale. So I drove up, unlocked the heavy oak door, and stepped into dust and silence. The house smelled like mothballs and earth. Most of it was still. Furnished faded photos, grandfather clocks, porcelain dolls that watched every step I took. Then I found the letter, written in quivering cursive, left on the dining table. Alara, do not open the basement, ever. You carry the blood, but you must resist the pull. The thing below wears many faces. None of them are ours. Creepy. Yes, I laughed it off. Old people get weird near the end. Still, I checked the basement door. Rusted shut, padlocked. I let it be. But that night, I heard her voice, soft, familiar, though I'd never heard it before. "Alara, dear, I'm so cold down here." It came from the floor. The second night, the dolls had moved. Slightly, a few inches closer, all facing the basement door, and the whispering got louder. My name repeated in a voice that almost sounded like my mother's. "She's been gone for years. Alara, honey, why won't you let me out?" I smashed the padlock. The steps creaked downward into pitch black. I didn't want to go, but something, curiosity, bloodline, madness, dragged me down. At the bottom, the air was wet and foul. My flashlight barely pierced the gloom, but I saw it's a rocking chair in the center, facing the wall, and someone in it. She looked like my mother, but taller, thinner, limbs too long, skin too pale. She rocked slowly, humming a lullaby I remembered from childhood. "Alara," she said, "don't you recognize your family?" She turned her face. It was my face, but twisted, grinning with too many teeth, eyes hollow, black. I screamed and ran. She didn't follow. Not yet. But since that night, the house has changed. The basement door won't close. Shadows stretch where they shouldn't. The mirrors don't show my reflection anymore, they show hers. And every night, the voice returns. "Alara, you set me free. Now I'll show you who we really are." My name is Rowan Mirth, and I bought this house to rebuild myself after a brutal breakup and a dead-end job. I wanted solitude, a place to start over. The fixer-upper in rural Pennsylvania was perfect, cheap, spacious, and beautifully derelict. I planned to document the renovation on my channel, Rowan Rebuilds. Day one, I noticed something odd. The living room walls had large uneven patches under the peeling wallpaper. I assumed it was bad plasterwork, maybe old water damage. I made a note to scrape it off and start fresh. The second night, I heard a knocked out from inside the wall, soft, rhythmic, like someone trying to get my attention, but careful not to wake the whole house. I froze. Then I laughed it off. Told my viewers it was probably an animal trapped behind the drywall. I set up my camera overnight, facing the largest bulge in the living room wall. When I reviewed the footage, the camera flickered at 2:17 a.m. Then I saw it. The bulge moved. Not slightly, not subtly. It pulsed outward, stretched as if something behind. It was shifting, breathing, and just for a second, fingers pushed through. 5 long indentations, dragging downward. No sound, no explanation. I stopped filming. I decided to remove the plaster and see what was behind it. I chiseled into the wall, slowly. The dust had a strange smell like spoiled milk and iron. Under the first few layers, I found wooden slats. Nothing unusual, but then I saw it. A face, mummified, wide-eyed mouth open in a scream. Embedded in the plaster itself. I stumbled back. The air turned cold. My ears rang. I called the police. They arrived, investigated, and dismissed it as an old Halloween decoration sealed into the wall by a previous owner. They laughed. I didn't. I kept digging. I found more hands, bones, even a partial torso melded into the structure, like some grotesque art piece. That night, I dreamt of men in overalls, sealing a woman into the wall. She was alive, screaming. Her voice was muffled by layers of plaster and paint. When I awoke, my hands were raw, covered in dust, chisels still in my grip. I had been digging in my sleep. The next morning, every wall in the house had new bulges, some small, some shaped like limbs. They hadn't been there before, and the knocking returned, but now it came from all sides. Panic set in. I tried to leave, but my front door was bricked shut from the inside. I don't even own bricks. I smashed a window to escape. When I turned back, the house changed. It stood taller. Shadows flickered behind every pane. I've been staying in my car, parked across the street, watching it. The house is growing, swelling outward like it's digesting something or someone. Sometimes, I hear a woman scream from inside, and then knocking, coming from behind my back seat. My name is Miles Fenwick, and I made the worst decision of my life when I bought this house. It was a good deal to good, really. A 5-bedroom farmhouse on the edge of a sleepy Oregon town, priced like an apartment. I was told it had a history, but no one would tell me more. Honestly, I didn't care. I was tired of renting, tired of cities, tired of people. The first week was peaceful. Birds in the morning, rain at night. I set up my office in the east room upstairs. It had a large window that faced the trees. The silence was perfect for writing, but that silence started getting too perfect. On the 6th night, I noticed the east room had no sound at all. No creaking floors, no wind through the trees, not even the buzz of electronics. My computer fan stopped spinning when I entered. My phone screen dimmed. No signal. I tested it, played music in the hallway, then stepped inside. Silence total. Oppressive silence. I thought maybe the insulation was just thick. I moved my desk back into the hallway, but then I began hearing thuds coming from inside. That room. Slow, deliberate. Always at 3:12 a.m., not before, not after. One night, I placed my phone on the floor just outside the doorway, recording. The next morning, there was no audio, just 43 minutes of complete silence, except for the last 3 seconds. A voice, low, strained, whispered, "Don't let it hear you." I stopped sleeping, kept the door closed, but sometimes I'd wake to find it open, despite triple checking the lock. The silence started spreading. The bathroom, the stairs, the whole upstairs floor began to lose sound. Footsteps vanished. Faucets turned on with no splash. I couldn't hear my own breathing, but in that quiet, I started sensing something else, a presence, not watching, listening. I tried playing loud music through the house. It helped for a while. The silence receded, but the moment the track ended, the quiet surged in like a wave, stronger than before. And that night, I saw it, standing in the east room, just beyond the doorway, a tall, thin figure, gray and still, with no mouth, just a smooth face where sound should be. It turned to look at me and tilted its head. I couldn't scream. There was no sound in me. I ran. I stayed at a motel for a week. The moment I stepped back into the house, my ears popped like stepping into a vacuum. The east room door was open again. There was something scratched into the floor. It listens. It learns. It wants more. I tried to sell. No takers. I offered to burn it down. The fire department laughed. But when I lit the match in the east room, it extinguished instantly. No flame survives there now. The silence follows me, to the grocery store, to the gas station. I'll be talking to someone, and suddenly nothing. No voice, no music, just that vacuum pulling in around me. And sometimes, when the quiet is deep enough, I see it behind them, watching, waiting for their voices to vanish too. My name is Caden Vale, and I didn't choose this house. It chose me. I inherited it from an uncle I'd never met. Sabashanvali, the letter said, deceased without heirs. The house was tucked in the woods of Vermont, Victorian style, wallpapered from floor to ceiling in faded rose patterns. It smelled like cinnamon and dust. I moved in the day after the funeral, grateful to finally own something in this world. The first night, I found a note under my pillow. Do not peel the wallpaper. Let it sleep. At first, I laughed. Some forgotten family prank, maybe. But as I explored the house, I noticed every room was sealed in the same brittle wallpaper. No nails, no seams. Like skin stretched over a wound. The kitchen wall had a small tear in it, hidden behind the stove. I didn't touch it. Not yet. Strange things started small. Whispers when the wind died. The feeling of being watched, even when all windows were covered. And that smell cinnamon growing stronger at night, cloying, rotting at the edges. One morning, I found long scratches on the hallway walls. 5 thin lines, like claw marks. I lived alone. There were no animals. Then came the dreams. I was standing in a dim room, wallpaper twitching like muscle. Voices behind it begged, sobbed, screamed my name. The pattern would shift and swirl into eyes, hundreds of them watching me. I'd wake drenched in sweat, fingers bleeding. Always the same whisper in my ear. Let it sleep. I finally gave in. I peeled back a single strip of wallpaper in the attic. Underneath was not drywall, not wood. It was skin, pale, veined, warm to the touch. IVOMITE. The next night, the house changed. The walls pulsed, slow and steady, like a heartbeat. Footsteps echoed where there were no floors. Laughter spilled from closets. The air thinned, choking with that spiced, rotting scent. I tried to leave, but the front door had vanished. In its place stood more wallpaper. It was then I noticed something. Wherever I had peeled, the voices grew louder, clearer, angry. I tore open the kitchen wall in desperation. Behind it, mouths. Real mouths, sewn shut, gaping, and eyes, human eyes, blinking rapidly, weeping. I screamed. The wallpaper resealed itself as I watched, flesh knitting back together. It didn't want me to see. It was protecting itself, or hiding them. I ran to the attic to burn the house down, but the match wouldn't light. The room laughed, and the wallpaper whispered, "You woke it." That night, I woke up in the walls, not in a room, in the walls. Cramped, dark, pressed between layers of muscle and paper. I screamed, but no sound escaped. I pounded, but my fists met only softness. I think I've been in here for days, maybe weeks. The house still stands. People walk by, sometimes they come in. I try to warn them. I scream until my throat bleeds, but the wallpaper muffles me, always has, and soon, it'll cover them too. My name is Elric Danner, and the house I bought is alive. It wasn't supposed to be. I'm a contractor. I've gutted enough places to know wood, concrete, and insulation don't breathe. But this one does. I noticed it the first night I slept there. At exactly 3:33 a.m., I woke up to the sound of inhaling. Long, deep, through the walls kind of breathing. It wasn't wind, it had rhythm, lungs. The air in my bedroom moved with it, like the house. Exhaled gently across my face. I searched the vents, the attic, even ripped open drywall. Nothing. The sound stopped at dawn. I tried to ignore it. Told myself it was just the acoustics. Old pipes, faulty memory. Then the walls started pulsing. Not visibly, no, bulging or cracking. But when I placed my hand on the hallway paneling, I could feel something shift behind it. Like a heartbeat. A slow, sick thump-thump. As if the house was checking if I was still there. And worse, the layout began to shift. One day I'd walk into the kitchen and there'd be 2 windows. The next day, 1. Sometimes the pantry would be on the left, sometimes the right. Rooms felt longer or shorter, depending on where I stood. I set up string lines and laser levels to prove I wasn't crazy. They moved. The blueprints didn't match anymore. The house was rearranging itself. I started marking walls with chalk, X's, arrows, door counts. Each morning, they'd be gone, not erased gone. The drywall looked untouched, and sometimes, in the quiet, I'd hear the creak of footsteps, pacing inside the walls. One night, I awoke to find myself in a room I didn't recognize. No doors, no windows, just for smooth walls and a soft red glow coming from nowhere. The breathing was louder here, wet, hungrier. The floor pulsed beneath my feet like muscle tissue. I screamed. When I blinked, I was back in my bed. I should have left. I tried, but the front door led to the basement. The basement stairs led to the attic, and the attic just circled back into the master bedroom. I was stuck in a Mobius loop of wood and horror. I stopped eating. The house fed me anyway, every night. A warm plate of food appeared on the dining table, fresh. My favorite dishes, some I hadn't had since childhood. I'd find water drawn in the tub, steaming. Clothes folded I never owned. The house wasn't just alive, it was aware. It wanted me. The final straw came when I smashed open the floor beneath the foyer. Beneath the wood was no foundation. A pulsing red membrane stretched taut across the earth. It quivered when I touched it. Then it opened, revealing rows of teeth. I ran. I don't know how I escaped. I woke up in a field a mile away, barefoot, covered in dust. The house was gone, literally. There's no listing, no street records, no foundation left behind, like it never existed. But I still hear it sometimes, in my dreams, breathing, waiting, I think. It wants me back. My name is Bryn Halley, and last month, I bought a home that shouldn't exist. It wasn't listed online. I found it by accident while driving through an unfamiliar neighborhood. A narrow cul-de-sac ended in a brick house shaded by dying trees. There was a sign in the yard. For sale. Cheap. I was curious. Inside, the place was immaculate, dustless, fully furnished, but strangely cold. The realtor never showed up. The front door had been unlocked. It felt like the house was waiting. I moved in the next day. At first, everything seemed fine. It was quiet, too quiet, like the air was holding its breath. I noticed strange things, mirrors that didn't reflect me properly, lights flickering only in one room upstairs, and a locked door at the end of the hall with no keyhole. It was the only room I couldn't enter. One night, I heard movement inside it, a dragging sound, then soft, rhythmic knocking. I pressed my ear to the wood. Knock, 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 knock. Pause. Then a whisper. I'm still here. I stumbled back, heart pounding. I didn't sleep that night. Over the next few days, the house started to change. Furniture shifted slightly when I left and returned. A second toothbrush appeared next to mine. 2 bowls sat in the sink when I had only used one, and the voices grew bolder. You forgot to say goodnight. I liked the red shirt. wear it again. Room for one more. The locked door remained shut, but the knocking became constant. I tried to leave. I packed my car and bolted. But after 5 minutes of driving, I found myself right back in the cul-de-sac, parked in front of the same house. No matter how far I drove, I always returned to that same damned street. I smashed the mirrors, burned the furniture, tried to destroy the door, but every morning, everything was back in place. Perfect, untouched, as if I'd never tried. Then came the night. I woke to find the door open, just a crack, just enough to see the edge of a bed inside, and someone lying on it. I couldn't see their face, only their pale feet. The rest was hidden in shadow. I called out, "Who's in there?" No answer. I stepped closer. The door creaked wider, and the figure sat up. It was me, exactly me. Same face, same clothes, same terrified eyes, but her smile was wrong, too wide, too still. She spoke in my voice. "You took my place, now I'll take yours." She lunged. I slammed the door. Now it's locked again, but from the inside. Because I'm in there now. She walks around in my skin, wears my clothes, lives my life. I watch from the dark, trapped in the room that shouldn't exist. She waves at the mirror. Sometimes I scream, but no one hears me. She hums lullabies I don't remember learning, and every time someone visits, she shows them the house, smiling, inviting. There's always room for one more. My name is Calder Ven, and I made the worst decision of my life 3 weeks ago. I bought a Victorian fixer-upper just outside of Darsley. The price was suspiciously low, but I chalked it up to the outdated structure and peeling wallpaper. In every room, I was excited. I wanted a project, something I could call my own. I didn't know the house already had an occupant. It began with the wallpaper in the master bedroom, a faded floral pattern, yellowing at the edges, curling like dead skin. As I began stripping it away, I noticed something strange beneath a figure, a rough charcoal drawing of a man. He was tall, slouched, with limbs too long and fingers like tangled wires. His eyes were hollow ovals, his grin crude and stretched. It wasn't some child's scribble. It felt ... alive, watching. I peeled more, and there he was again, and again, and again. Dozens of versions of him, hidden under layers of wallpaper in every room. Sometimes full body sketches, sometimes just a face peering from the corner, always staring, always grinning. My friend said it was probably just some disturbed artist who used to live here. I tried to believe them, but then the drawings started changing. One night, I passed by the guest bathroom and caught something from the corner of my eye. I turned back. The wallpaper had a fresh tear. The man's head was tilted now, and his hand had moved closer to the edge. By the next day, every depiction of him was subtly different. One had turned to face the window. Another had a hand pressed flat against the wall, fingers spread wide like he was trying to push through. I stopped peeling. I sealed every room and tried to ignore them, but they didn't stop. I started hearing the sound of scratching at night long, deliberate strokes like fingernails dragging across wallpaper. I'd wake up with strips of paper torn and curled onto the floor, revealing him a little more. One night, I dreamt I was inside the walls, cold, pressed between wooden beams, wrapped in dry paper. The wallpaper man was with me, breathing slow, speaking in rustling sounds like sheets crumpling. He said, "You peeled me out. Now you let me in." I woke up with wallpaper clinging to my arms like it had grown there. The next day, I painted over everything, sealed every wall. But that night, the paint peeled away in curled ribbons. He was closer, smiling wider. On the 7th night, I woke up to find him at the foot of my bed. Not a drawing, not a dream. Him. He stepped forward with stiff, cracking movements like paper folding. His body wasn't made of flesh. It was wallpaper, yellowed, patterned skin twisting around a man-shaped void. His eyes were holes. He leaned down and whispered, "One more room left." Then he vanished. I ran. I never went back. But every night since, wherever I stay, I find a single strip of faded wallpaper on the wall near my bed. Just one strip, with a shape behind it, just beginning to show. I think he's still peeling through. And I think the last room left is me. My name is Ellery Rowe, and I moved into my new home a week ago. A modest two-story nestled in the sleepy edges of Crest Hill. The house had charm, quirks, and a silence that felt almost too perfect. I moved alone, fresh out of a breakup, looking for peace. What I found instead was a sound. It began on the third night. At exactly 3:17 a.m., I was yanked out of sleep by a sharp creak beneath my bed. It wasn't the settling of old floorboards. It was rhythmic, deliberate, like someone crawling on wood with their nails. The first few nights, I told myself it was nothing. Maybe a squirrel under the floor, or pipes expanding. But every night, the noise returned closer, slower, and somehow heavier. I avoided the basement entirely. The stairs were steep and narrow, and the door would stick, as if the wood resisted being opened. On the fourth night, I left my phone recording overnight. The next morning, I found a 30-minute audio clip beginning with silence and ending with whispers. The voice was hoarse, guttural. It repeated a phrase I couldn't understand. Something like, "Elra, come Bilu." I laughed it off, nervously. Maybe a prank. Maybe interference. Still, I couldn't shake the pressure in my chest whenever I stepped on the floorboards above the basement. Something was down there, watching, waiting. That night, I forced the basement door open with a crowbar. The air inside was colder than outside. Dust clung to the air like fog, and the single bulb flickered. When I pulled the chain, there was nothing, no rodents, no pipes, banging, just a stone floor, a few shelves, and a cracked mirror leaning against the far wall. I turned to leave, but the bulb burst above me. Darkness swallowed everything. Then I heard it, not from beneath me, but behind me, breathing, shallow, fast, right against my neck. I turned and saw it in the mirror, a pale figure crouched upside down on the ceiling, eyes pitch black, mouth stretched far too wide, whispering my name backward. "Euro, Euro." I screamed and scrambled up the stairs, slamming the door shut behind me. I moved a dresser in front of it and didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, I put the house up for sale. But every night, I remained here. The whispers grow louder, the footsteps echo under the bed again, and every morning, I find the basement door wide open. I tried staying elsewhere, hotels, friends, couches, but the whisper follows me. Every night at 3:17 a.m., they say a new home is a fresh start. I believed that too, but no one told me some homes choose you, and once they do, they never let you go.